All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What is going on, SHIPIT Nation YouTube station? We're back Sunday, all the way October, man. What is this, week 6 now? Man, it just felt like week 1 yesterday, but that's what happens in the NFL season. It comes, we wait all year for it to come around. Before you know it, you blink and it's gone, but it's nonetheless a great day to be breaking down this Sunday night football game here with my guy Ham. Good game on tap actually tonight here for once on the Sunday night slate. Good overall main slate going on today as well. I know I've been pretty knee deep in there building teams and looking at the main slate, but excited to jump on here and break down the Sunday night football game with you, Ham. Happy weekend, man. I'll bring you in. What's going on, brother?
Yeah, no, been a great weekend. We got a great game tonight, I think, as well. Got a bunch of pieces to talk about. You know, big game for both squads if they want to make it to the playoffs. Bengals let one slip away last week. Giants got an unexpected win, so looking forward to breaking it down and, you know, finding some winners with you.
Yeah, we got some injuries to talk about, obviously, or some guys that are thrusted into starting roles due to injuries there. But overall, should be a pretty good game here. Pretty big total, but we'll do our best to break it down. So if you guys are new, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Helps us out a ton. ShipItNation.com. All the best tools in the industry, including the stone for every sport. I know, Ham, I don't know if you've been in the NHL streets, but a lot of new members in the NHL streets over here. And with the new NHL Stone and the matchup sheet, makes it pretty easy to build teams and give yourself a reputable chance. We've had an incredible start to the NHL season. I know NHL is not a huge selling point for DFS, but right now, hey, use code NHL15, get you locked in, 15% off any membership plan, including our Shiptimizer, which is our in-house optimizer designed to help you ship. Don't need to go out and get an additional add-on package outside. I mean, under $100 a month right now, and you got the optimizer, you got all the premium content for all the sports, NFL, NBA shortly around the corner, NHL, MLB playoffs still going on, PGA swing season, you got NASCAR, MMA, you name it, we have it. So NHL 15 gets you locked in for 15% off any membership plan. But man, I alluded to the Stone. Hey, we got the Stone for NFL, and it is the Stone Nuts here. Not going to put it up on the screen yet. I don't want to give away all the keys to the paradise over here, but I'm going to pull it up on my end, and I'm sure you're using it as well. But let's talk through this game here. 46.5 is the total here. Cincinnati at the Giants. Giants 2-3, right? Cincinnati 1-3. Let one slip last week. Giants picked up a big win overall. And, hey, is it Tyrone Tracy's season? He looked incredible last week. Obviously, he was on the main slate. Basically, what was he, 4,300, something like that. Got the 100-yard bonus. I know he helped our guy Hebrew win some cheese over the weekend as well. And, hey, he gets another great matchup here overall. But let's talk captains, man. And we're going to start at the top here with the captain position. Well, obviously, Malik Neighbors is still out there for the Giants, right? So, I mean, from a captain perspective, all the way up right at the top, you got Jamar Chase for good reason, right? Chase just looks absolutely incredible. Went absolutely nuclear last week, dropped 44, right? Just a target monster overall for this team. Gets a pretty cupcake matchup overall here against the Giants, right? But he's 17-1. You got to pay for him. He's 3,000 more than the next guy, which is T. Higgins, his teammate there. And then Daniel Jones, running quarterback, dual threat, right? Where, hey, you can run on the Cincinnati team. You can pretty much do anything you want on the Cincinnati Bengals defense overall. They're very porous, very, very trash. So overall, looking at things for me, I'm going to be more heavy on the Giants, I think, in the captain spot. I just like attacking this Bengals team. And then I like playing those Bengals guys on the comeback in the flex. I really like the 2-4 style builds tonight where I'm going 2 Giants and 2 or 3 Giants and then the rest Bengals. I really like that 2-4 type build. But from a captain perspective, I mean, you got Daniel Jones at 13-5 all the way down there. And then mean, you got Joe Burrow right in there as well. So talk to me what you're doing for the captain position here. Is it a quarterback night for you? Is it the wide receiver alpha here for Jamar Chase, Higgins, or my guy, Tyrone Tracy, who I really like at 11-1 in that captain spot?
Yeah, let's start at the top. I mean, Jamar Chase, obviously a great play, nuked the slate, like you said, 40-plus points. I think that trio combined for 111 last week alone. But, man, that's so expensive. And if you start building teams with Jamar and the captain, you get pretty thin, and you got to get some of those bargain basement guys down there below. So I'm with you. I think I'm going to have some Giants guys in my captain to lead the way. Now, certainly, if I'm building more than 3 teams, I would have Chase and a couple of the captain. But with Malik Neighbors out, which would be the highest priced captain, once you get down to those Giants, it is rather cheap. We've seen Wan'Dale Robinson in his role that he's had, and just the target share that he gets. Darius Slayton had a breakout game last week. So Wan'Dale and Slayton would lead the way for me, just coming from a contrarian perspective, playing these Giants. I do like those Giants. It allows you to fit in more of the studs. Danny Dimes, like you said, he's a running quarterback. I think he picked up, 40 rushing yards last week, 38 rushing yards last week. He has that in his bag. If he gets in the end zone, via the legs, he's going to be tough to beat out at the captain spot. But for me, it's Wan'Dale Robinson, Darius Slayton leading the way. If I'm building, just one team just to get different, trying to win that $300K up top prize. But Jamar Chase is a great play. I don't think I'll get to T. Higgins in the captain. He had a great game last week as well, but 14-1, just a little high that I want to pay. So it would be Wan'Dale 1, Darius Slayton 2 for me. And I'm not as high on Tyrone Tracy, the captain, as you. I know you liked him, and he's definitely a good play, but I just don't think I'll be getting there. I'd rather have the pass catchers for the Giants. I think they'll be playing from behind as well. So give me those 2 receivers leading the way for me.
Yeah, no, excellent breakdown there. So the reason I kind of like Tyrone Tracy is if, again, going back to the school example, we got these report cards over here on the Stone, and you look at that report card, you got a letter that's not A, B, or C, starting with that rush defense there for the Bengals. So I like to play matchups here. Tyrone Tracy, like I said last week, right, 129 on the ground in just 18 carries against Seattle. Which is a pretty similar matchup here, right, to the Bengals, and the Giants are at home. Hey, everybody just saw what Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati team did. If they're coming into my house here, the Giants in a must-win game. I hate saying must-win games this early in the season, but I mean, again, the Giants are going to want to rebound off of that nice win they had. Bengals are coming in upset. If you're me, I mean, I want to slow the game down, right, and keep Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, that passing attack off the field as much as possible. How do you do that? You rely on Eric Gray. You rely on Tyrone Tracy. Obviously, Gray is going to be a talking point later on when we talk to value, but Tyrone Tracy I like a lot. I mean, he got 2 targets in the passing game as well, which I would like to see a little bit more of that. But again, it was his first time starting in that role. He looked good overall. I mean, like I said, 129 on the ground and 18 carries. That's very good, very efficient. Should have had a touchdown as well, right? There. So, I mean, overall. So I like him quite a bit. And then I like Wan'Dale Robinson as well. I mean, this dude's averaging almost 10 targets a game right now in this offense. He's just, he's got touchdown upside. He's got the PPR upside, which is great. And he's got a really nice price in that captain position as well at 12-3. He's below Daniel Jones, T. Higgins, Burrow, Jamar Chase there overall. So really like those 2 guys a lot. I don't know if I get to Darius Slayton. I just think he picks up more ownership than based on his explosion last week, right? I think recency bias, everyone's going to kind of jump on ship and, Slayton's the guy. I still think this offense is going to run through Wan'Dale Robinson, Tyrone Tracy, Daniel Jones. I think is kind of where this offense is going to run through. Slayton, sure, he's there, but now he's priced up. I mean, I get it. He is the quote unquote play for Showdown, right? Because he is that home run potential guy down the sidelines there. But I think he's fine. I'm overall more heavily invested in these Giants guys, so naturally I'll like some Slayton. But for me, it's really Tyrone Tracy, Daniel Jones, and Wan'Dale Robinson are kind of where I'm looking from the captain's position on the Giants side. Flipping over to the Bengals side here, I think Jamar Chase, obviously, I mean, anytime Jamar Chase is on the slate, you can't say you don't have interest. But for me, I've approached these primetime showdown games as just the most expensive captain and the most popular captain. I've just been underweight on him because, I mean, you go in there, you're naturally behind the 8 ball, behind the field, unless you're literally playing 150 teams. I mean, you got to be so perfect with the highest price, the most highest owned captain. That for me on 20 max and 3 max single entry stuff, I'm just naturally going to be underweight on those type guys and just take my stands elsewhere. Do I love Jamar Chase? Absolutely, but I like him much more in the flex, I think, because what it does for your roster. I mean, you scroll down and you look at the value on the slate. Value is pretty weak overall, and I mean that's kind of been the theme we've seen all year, Ham, so far. Is, I mean, you need 10 to 12 to 15 points out of every one of your positions so far this year from what we're seeing for the most part with the way the kickers are playing this year. I mean, again, they're making 50-yard field goals like a chip shot. That's 5 points every time they make one of those, right? So when you're getting down to these value guys that you're hoping for 3 catches and a touchdown, right, maybe 30 yards, which is kind of their ceiling potential, it's really tough. So I like avoiding those kind of builds and just kind of playing more of the mid-tier captains or the cheaper captains, then rounding out with really, really solid flex plays. Am I going to ship every time? No, probably not. Am I going to get the super, super unique shipper that's maybe two or 3 duplicates? Probably not, but I can still build solid teams roster construction wise, right, and still give myself a shot at the top and burn a lot less lineups than jumping down to the bottom. So that's kind of where I'm at for the captain position. My favorite captain on the Bengals, I think, would probably be Joe Burrow, just because we've seen these quarterbacks overall be lower owned here. Burrow can definitely spread it around. But again, like I said, I'm pretty much going to be fading these Bengals in the captain's position and going in with these Giants. That's just the way I'm going. I think it's going to be more unique and more contrarian there, and then go overweight on the Bengals in the flex. But any additional takes on the captain position here for you?
Yeah, the only other captain that I did want to touch on, it's gonna be a low owned one, would be Zach Moss for the Bengals, and the reason why Chase Brown, practiced on Wednesday, popped up on the injury report on Thursday, was limited on Thursday, limited on Friday. Looks like he's going to play, but man, I just hate those midweek injuries to a quadriceps, no less. Zach Moss did see 67% of the snaps last week as well. The Giants did just lose Kayvon Thibodeau, right? Their game-wrecking defensive end. The Bengals love to pass, but, if they get up and get the lead, Zach Moss, I think he's $12K at the captain position. He's going to be super low owned, especially a guy that doesn't catch a whole ton of passes either. But I don't hate it if you're going to build a game script around that. I think Zach Moss might be a good contrarian captain for the Bengals.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I just think overall these Giants are going to be under-owned in the captain position, so I think I'm going to get my leverage there. But yeah, I like Zach Moss. I think Zach Moss is a great flex play here. He's actually in a pretty decent matchup overall, and I could see like everyone I think just naturally comes into this game after what the Bengals did last week on offense, and obviously there was still nuts. You needed them to ship any tournament on the main slate. I think people just naturally come in here and see the Bengals and the Giants and just expect this game to shoot out. Right? It's in New York. It's a primetime game. I mean, I could easily see this game slowing down, be more on the ground, field goals, just more possession type stuff, slow it down, right? I think that's what I'm seeing. I mean, the Bengals play at a C- pace overall, so they like to play a little bit slower anyways, at about a 70-30 run-pass split as well. And on the Giants side, I mean, you're sitting at about a 75-25 run-pass split. But I think, again, I think they could definitely lean more on the run and try and slow this game down, keep Burrow and Chase and Higgins and those guys off the field there. So overall, I think we hit the captain position pretty good. Let's jump over to the flex position here. And again, we're going to start like we always do with kickers and defenses here. You got Money Mac, right? Money McPherson here at 5,200. And then you got Greg Joseph, who, was optimal one of his primetime slates already this year. When everybody was on Brandon Aubrey, it was Greg Joseph's season, right? Talk to me on these flex plays here, because kickers, again, man, it just seems like pretty solid rule that you'd be pretty profitable all season if you just made minimum one kicker in every one of your teams throughout these primetime showdown slates, because it seems like there's just a kicker optimal on every one of these teams. And it's because going back to the value. I mean, the pricing just it just rounds out your teams better when you have these kickers, because from a value standpoint, usually the guys under the kickers are playing 30-40% max snaps, right? And you're really kind of hoping for lightning in a bottle there. So hit on these kickers, two great kickers overall. And then you got the Bengals defense at 4,800, which is priced up. Giants defense all the way down at 3,600. Burrow can take sacks. He can throw interceptions. I think that's a decent play overall. But where are you going from a kicker D standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, these kickers all season, I saw you in the chat on Thursday as well. You picked the wrong one. You had Myers and you needed it right. You did not have the right stuff. And so, I mean, both of these guys, you said it. I mean, especially Money Mac and Greg Joseph. We saw it in the Dallas game that he had. I mean, they kicked 50-yarders like it's nobody's business. Now, I know McPherson missed one at the end of the game last week, but, these guys can hit 50-yarders with ease. We even saw in the Thursday night game what the Niners put up 35-plus points, and they still kicked 3 or 4 field goals. I think 3 field goals, maybe 4. So they're just scoring points in droves. They get down in there, they stall out at the 35, no big deal. We'll just kick a 52-yarder and get 5 points. So I think both of these kickers, they're 5,200, 5,000. I think both are squarely in play. I would sort of lean Money Mac in this one. I think they get redemption. He's been a good kicker in this league. Hit a lot of clutch field goals. Not to mention, if it's a close game, at the end of the game, they're going to play for a field goal. Always playing for a field goal at the end of the half. So I like those kickers. And yeah, these defenses are interesting to me. You kind of touched on it. Bengals 4,800 probably won't get there just because of how bad they've been. But I don't mind this Giants defense, Nades. Even if you have a Burrow in the captain spot, something like that, they're passing. Did you say they're passing 70% or running? Yeah,
70% pass attempts.
Yeah, I mean, they're passing, like you said. Burrow will take sacks. He'll take interceptions. He could still take 5 sacks, throw 3 picks, and score 28 points, right? Giants may get a touchdown too. So I don't hate this Giants defense as a contrarian play at 3,600. Allows you to do a lot of things. I don't think I'll get to the Bengals defense at 4,800, just more than I want to pay for them. But definitely like both kickers, like the Giants defense. I won't have any Bengals defense tonight.
Yeah, I mean, this Giants defense has 22 sacks in the year, right? They're averaging right around 9 points. I think it's a solid value play, to be honest. And like I said, I don't care. Even if I'm going to Burrow, have Burrow in the lineup or a Chase captain, something like that. Going to get against the Giants in the flex, right? Giants D at that value tag. Number one, they start out with 10 points. Number two, if Burrow throws a pick 6 to start the game, well, guess what? They get that touchdown, but also that overall helps the build of your roster, right? Because you're expecting Chase to go off. You're expecting Burrow to go off in a passing game. Well, when you throw pick 6, right, it's naturally they have to throw and catch up and stuff. So it's just an overall naturally good build. Gets you different as well. And at that price point, I mean, 3,600, he's right there in the range of Eli All, Gesicki, Eric Gray, Theo Johnson. I mean, I think the Giants defense is a much better play than majority of those guys there. So I really like the Giants defense, and then I love both kickers as well. I think I'm more on the Greg Joseph side. I'm just a little bit heavier on the Giants, but not only that, I just think the Bengals go for it more than what the Giants are going. I mean, Greg Joseph just has more attempts overall on average than what Money Mac has. So overall, that's kind of the stand I'm at. But love both of the kickers. Love the Giants defense, Bengals defense. I'm not going to get any of. I just don't like them at that price point there. Let's jump down since we're down in this range and talk some of these value plays here. Below the Bengals defense, you got Yoshi Voss, you got Gesicki, All Jr., Eric Gray, Theo Johnson, and then kind of drops off a cliff after that, right? I mean, obviously you got the Samples, the Tanner Hudsons of the world, the Bellingers. But again, gets gross very quickly. And even all of those guys outside of Gesicki and Eric All, I think are pretty gross overall. Theo Johnson, right? And when is it going to be the Theo Johnson week? We've been trying to make this guy work for a long time here. But what are you going to do with any of these value plays down here? Are you getting to them? Overall, like I said, I'm going more balanced build and trying to round out my teams with a kicker, with a defense, maybe a Yoshi Voss or something like that. But what are you doing here from a value standpoint?
Yeah, I think most of these showdown slates, it's been tough to find good value. And even when you get that value, I think you said it earlier, you still need 15 points, 13 points out of them. I forget who it was. It wasn't Juszczyk, but I mean, it wasn't. These guys are scoring touchdowns. Oh no, it was Moreau in the Monday night game. I mean, these guys are scoring touchdowns that Hoop and Title and Tambo were talking about. They're scoring touchdowns and not even optimal. So you got to get at least double digits, I feel like. And the guys down there that can do that for me would be Yoshivas. Had a, I guess, bad game last week, but we've seen him score multiple touchdowns in games this season. He's still playing 75% of the snaps. Hey, we always talk about it. 1 game sample size, anything can happen. They could double Higgins, they could double Chase, and that leaves Yoshivas 1-on-1, and he could be the difference at 4,400. He's playing a whole bunch. These tight ends for the Bengals, it's just so tough. They're only playing 30 to 40% per tight end, so they're tough. Theo Johnson would be one that once again, 1 game sample. He played 75% of the snaps last week, had his best game as a pro with 5 catches on 5 targets. Don't hate Theo Johnson, especially with Neighbors out, kind of can serve as that underneath guy. If you're fading Tyrone Tracy, I think Eric Gray's fine. I'd be interested to see if you would put Gray and Tyrone in the same lineup. I don't think I would, but you would definitely be different if you did. I don't think Eric Gray's bad. If you watched that game last week, Nades, I mean, Eric Gray came out. He caught 2 passes like on the first drive. I felt like for like 35 yards, and he thought he was going to be rocking and rolling. It did end up being a Tyrone Tracy day, but I don't think he's the worst play. And the last one I want to touch on, and man, he's gross. I'm repping him though. I'm repping my boy Jalen, former Vol. Jalen Hyatt has been absolutely abysmal all season long. 3 targets in 5 games. Hey, but when they drafted him for his deep ball ability. You're down on the 15-yard line. He can take it off the top. He's got speed to burn. He's playing 65% of the snaps as well. Don't hate him. He's 2,000. He's going to have to, hit a bomb to help you out, but don't think it's the worst play.
Yeah, no, excellent breakdown there. But going back to just Thursday night, right? We saw Kyle Juszczyk at 1.4K score over 10 fantasy points and still not be in the winning build, right? Obviously, when a build is 36-24, right? You got a lot of studs. You think, oh, if you're giving me a 1.4K dude that's going to score over 10 fantasy points, most people would say, hey, I'm going to lock him in, right? Because that allows me to get up to the Debos, the Ayuks, right? The Kittles of the world, the Purdy's of the world, the Kenneth Walkers of the world, right? It just wasn't the case. So again, that just goes back to this show of where I'm kind of honing in my approach and just going more balanced in the captain position to avoid some of these guys down here overall. Obviously, can you build a chase captain where you still avoid this range down here? Absolutely you can, but you're fading some overall good plays, and that's just the stand you got to take and the decision point you got to make. But whereas me, I like those Giants captains more, so I can play more of the better plays overall in the flex position. So for me, my favorite values down here, I think Gesicki and Eric All are good plays. I probably prefer Eric All, to be honest, to Gesicki. They really like this dude. He's getting a ton of targets, averaging right around 4 targets per game, 3.4K. He's in a plus matchup here against the Giants as well. So I really like that. Eric Gray, I think, is an interesting play. I think you could play these guys together. They had about a 60-40 split. Tyrone Tracy seems like more of the every down back. Eric Gray seems more of the pass catching role, at least from what I'm seeing. Obviously, it's a 1 game sample that we're working off of here, right, with Singletary on the IR here. So we're going to get more sample here. But at his price point, I think he's fine overall. Don't hate it. Again, had 4 targets last week, caught 3 of them for 50 yards. So I think he's a solid play. Don't love playing them together. But again, I think at the salaries, I still don't think I want to play them together. I mean, Eric Gray is still $3,000. He still needs to do something at that price point. So you're kind of counterintuitive on your roster when you're going Tracy and Gray together. Personally, I think I prefer one or the other. If Eric Gray was down at 1,100, 1,200, 1,400, something like that, it's a little bit different from a salary standpoint. But playing those guys together, I mean, Eric Gray at 3,000 and then Tyrone Tracy at 7,400, you're looking at 10-4 for the two of them. That's kind of a hefty combo pack there. So I like Eric Gray in teams where I'm a little bit under on Tyrone Tracy or in Bengals heavy scripts right? Because I think Eric Gray is more of the pass catcher, at least from what we saw last week. So if I'm going heavy Bengals script or Bengals playing from ahead, winning script, and the Giants are kind of playing catch up, I think that's where I give the bump to a guy like Eric Gray for a value standpoint, because you're going to want to get those chases, those Burrows, the Higgins of the world that cost more money. So you're going to need salary relief anyway. So that's kind of where I like that. Jalen Hyatt, he is the home run guy, man. It's just that's a tough click overall. And that goes back to the value. I mean, Jalen Hyatt's got 3 targets on the year and he's $2,000 on the slate, right? I get it. He's got the home run play potential, but so does Darius Slayton. I mean, I think taking a Darius Slayton and dropping down to a Jalen Hyatt and saying, hey, Jalen Hyatt's going to be that home run guy, and this is maybe there's one home run in this game, and it's not Slayton, it's Hyatt. I think that's an interesting team and a way to get unique. But again, that's a very gross click overall. So for me, again, I don't like much of this value down here. Theo Johnson, I think, is good. Eric All, I think, is decent. Gesicki, I'm a little bit under on. And then Eric Gray in teams where I'm kind of under on Tyrone Tracy. I think are all solid plays overall. Chase Brown, let's jump up and talk the rest of the slate. I mean, Chase Brown, you got at 8,600, Zach Moss at 8K. I think Chase Brown's a pretty easy fade overall in this game, especially with the midweek downgrade with the quad there. I think Zach Moss being cheaper as well. Obviously, the ownership right on Chase Brown is going to be under or held in check and actually probably coming under owned with that questionable tag. Obviously, we're going to have to keep an eye on that if he is active for this game. But what's your takes kind of on the rest of these flex plays here with the Zach Mosses of the world right there in the range of Wando Robinson, Tyrone Tracy's right there in that range, Slayton. Talk to me on this upper kind of flex tier.
Yeah, I mean, it's just mind-boggling to me that Chase Brown, I mean, is 8,600 and Moss is 8,000. Maybe DK knows something we don't know, but I do think Chase Brown, long-term is a better back than Moss, but the Bengals coaches don't agree because he hasn't out-snapped him all season long. I do have Moss. I mean, I got a little bit of Moss interest in the captain, Wandale Robinson at 8,200. He's just too cheap. You talk about all the targets he's getting. They're at home. I certainly don't mind that. Darius Slayton, I think I'm higher on than you, just based on the fact that $6,600, we saw what he did last week. He is going to come with a ton of ownership, so I do understand that. I'm a little lower on T. Higgins than maybe most. I don't hate this Giants defense. I know Thibodeau's out, but they're at home, coming off a big win, playing in front of their home crowd. I like these Giants. I think you do too. I think the Giants win this game, send the Bengals to what? Bengals will be 1-5 after tonight. So yeah, give me some Wandale, give me some Slayton. Those are my 2 favorite plays on the slate for sure.
Yeah, I definitely have more interest in Higgins. I mean, just looking at his targets, 10 and 14 targets in the last 2 weeks. I mean, yeah, he was on the shelf to start the year here, and it was Jamar Chase show. I think when Higgins in there, and Chase, when they're both in there, they benefit each other. I don't love playing these guys together. I will allude that right off the bat. Obviously, it worked last week. I think more people are going to go to that. But historically, these 2 guys very, very rarely both get there in the same game. So in a 1-game sample, in a 1-game showdown slate here, especially if one of them is in the captain position for me, I'm going to separate out or at least dock or really trying to avoid playing these 2 guys together. Especially on this slate when 9-4 and 11-4, they're both expensive here. I want one or the other. I don't want both of them in the same team for the most part. Outside of maybe a Burrow captain team, right, where you're expecting Burrow to throw for 4 touchdowns, 300 plus yards type thing. And hey, one of them's to Chase, 2 of them are to Higgins, something like that. But even then, I mean, one of those guys is likely to be in the captain position. So for me, I like separating those 2 guys. Just historically, naturally, they just typically don't get there together outside of maybe last week, maybe a couple other times. But for the most part, the data says separate these 2 guys together. And so on a 1-game showdown, definitely going to do that. And I don't think a lot of people do that. So that's another way to get different with those Bengals receivers, those Bengals plays, and overall roster construction, which I do like there. So definitely have more interest in Higgins than you do. Seems like you have more interest in Darius Slayton, and I got more interest in T. Higgins. Obviously, there's a price discrepancy there, but again, Darius Slayton 6'6", still a solid play. He looked great last week. They're getting him heavily involved. Again, Think they're going to slow this game down a little bit more. Wandale, Tyrone Tracy on the ground, Daniel Jones. I think they try and control this more versus trying to air it out, chuck the ball down the field type thing, where they were in that kind of track meet last week with Seattle. So again, think that handles the slate pretty good here. Why don't you give the people kind of your low owned play of the day, and then your favorite overall play of the day before we get out of here?
Yeah, I think low owned. I'm gonna go with Zach Moss. I think Zach Moss is going to be a great play, and then Wandale. Wandale is going to be my highest owned captain on the slate. He's my favorite one of the day.
Yeah, I'm going a little combo pack, a little correlation pack here. I'm going Tyrone Tracy, my favorite captain play here, and then my favorite low owned value play is the Giants defense. I think people are sleeping on the Giants defense. It's a little nice correlation there. Throw a little Tyrone Tracy up in the captain position, Giants D in the flex, and then kind of do whatever you want. Ownership really won't matter from that standpoint. So I really like that kind of start there and that build. And overall, I think it puts you on a pretty decent path here tonight. But again, thank you everyone for watching. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. Down in the comments, drop your favorite captains, your score predictions of this game. Hopefully everyone's having a great main slate by the time they watch this back on replay. We're about to get out of here. Hoop, Tambo, and Title are about to go live right here on this channel to break down the main slate here. Good luck tonight in those contests. Hope to see those SHIPIT Nation logos at the top. For Hamwich, I'm Nadesify. Let's ship it.